John.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Infinite Podcast. I've said for the last couple of weeks the wrong name. Whatever. How's it going? How's things? Woohoo! Umbra, welcome back to another show. How's your week been? What have you been up to? How was it fixed?
Oh man, I've been good. I like my music intro. I can hear it kicking back in. I'm feeling real positive. No, listen, it's been a good week for me, man. I appeared on Boom's podcast earlier, and I'm sure some of the people here in the chat know about it. What you laughing about over there? Huh?
Tell us about it, Umbra.
Who?
Listen.
Who? Hey?
I appeared on Boom's podcast, and
Hey?
shout out to Boom and the cast, and man, I must have gone rockabye baby because I was out of there toward the end of that show.
Oh, wow.
I gave them a good hour, and so hey,
You did it
a
again?
good hour or so before that, I did it again. Hey, oh wait, they didn't know about the first time. Don't listen to him. They didn't know about the
First, how many are we talking here?
right. There's got to be about 4 of them right here. Yeah, I was out of there. But I woke up to other people like joking about it in the chat. That was so hilarious. But it was a good show despite that.
Even our chat pointed it out.
Yeah. What's up, chat? What's up, everybody? Thank you all for being here. Other than that, man, I had a really good show the other day, myself and Daniel McGee on the Fix. Shout out to everybody who came to support. Really good discussion. We talked about a bunch of things, Black Panther and Captain America's 1943, the rise of Hydra, talked about the Chrono Odyssey, and we even talked about the PS5 Pro specs, although we didn't have the technical know-how to really give it this full breadth of discussion that we wanted to. We just talked about if it was something that we wanted to get and knowing that the CPU is in an upgrade to what we already have with the PS5 and things like that. It was just a really good discussion. But yeah, BT Maverick, I know. I was out of there. But other than that, man, it's been a decent week. Happy to be here with you guys tonight. Trying to see if I can pull somebody else in here to argue with tonight. So I'm going to step away for a second. But yes, I'll pass it on over back to you, Risk.
Oh yeah, actually, John Wolf would be good. I don't think we had John on, have we? Yeah, grab John. See if John's busy.
That's what I was about to reach out to. First person I thought of. Yeah.
And Blue. Welcome back to another week of the Infinite Podcast. How's your week been? What have you been up to? I haven't seen you much this week. You're not playing Helldivers anymore. You don't like it. It's trash. How's things?
It's trash, yes. Umbra drove me to insanity on that game. I'm not playing that anymore unless I'm specifically asked to. This dude loaded it up on extreme with just 2 of us and nobody else. And it was savage and we did not make it out. And then he lowered it down. So whatever the one is before that, I think it's hard. And we lost again. So it's either too hard or Umbra has a skill issue. One of those things.
Wait a minute. What about
defend himself?
Time out. What about your skill issue on it, huh?
It wasn't me.
Yeah.
You're the one that picked the mission, picked the difficulty. You should know your audience.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I'm not playing Helldivers again unless I'm asked to. I'm done with it. But good for everybody else who's enjoying it. What else have I been doing? Grinding a little COD, and then today I played a couple hours of Dragon's Dogma 2. So there you go. That's
how much have you spent?
Just the deluxe edition price. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So far,
yep.
And that's all I will be spending.
You haven't paid for fast travel yet?
I have not. I will not.
Are you sure? That didn't sound very convincing at all. That sounded like I'm probably going to, but right now.
No. It's not an operator skin and it's not a gun in Call of Duty, so I will not pay for it. That's it. No microtransactions that I shill for.
Fair. And you can already make yourself look pretty in the game before you get started. Me. Well, it's been a bit of a interesting week. I'll read out a couple of these super chats before we get going because it came in early. Udani Quizada with the X got a new name for Riskit. Riskit 4 to 8 clicks. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's a lot of people not loving Riskit right now. And that's okay. You don't have to. I'm fine. Lotus Esprit, I got it right. With the $5 super chat, you didn't say anything, Lotus, but welcome to the show. You're an absolute champion. And then Lotus Esprit with the $20 super chat said, ThatBlueNumber. Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting week. There's been a little bit going on. A little bit unprepared this week, I'm going to be honest, because my son had his tonsils out. He's only 2 years old, and he has been in a lot of pain, struggling, hasn't been getting much sleep, which means I haven't been getting much sleep. It's been a very interesting week for me, which is why we don't have a guest. I'm very unprepared, but I do have some topics. But one of the topics that popped up, I think last night, which I want to talk about, get into, was this Dragon's Dogma. So Dragon's Dogma apparently didn't have its microtransactions available in game for the review period, but after launch they then dropped in microtransactions, and a little bit unprepared on this one, but as far as I could tell, there's microtransactions for fast travel, microtransactions for all sorts of little things. It seems a little bit egregious that they've dropped it in after the review period. Apparently, it was in the documentation that went out with the review copies. But I would say, if it's not in the game while you're playing the game, how can you understand holistically how it's going to affect your feelings about the game? So I found that my view is this shouldn't be happening in 2024, but I understand why it's happening. Now, if you could think back to a few months ago when they launched, I think it was Street Fighter, Capcom's CEO said that they are basically not making enough money off these games. And they're going to start looking at ways to monetize, raise prices, etc. I guess my question to the community just before we went live, because I've seen a lot of discourse back and forth about this. I've tried to stay mostly out of it, exactly because what Udani said is there's been a lot of hate for Riskit at the moment. If I say anything, I'm either a pony or an Xbot. So I've been very careful about speaking at all. But my question to Colt, Jez Corden, and Jen, who works over at Windows Central, was if the only choice left in game prices is game prices going up to $80 or $90, and I'm going to ask this question in the chat, I'll drop a poll in there as well, is game prices going up? Or we see this type of microtransactions in, fully priced games like $70 games. Which one are we going to choose? If there has to be a choice, like what's the choice we're choosing here? And for myself personally, I'm gonna be willing to pay. And for me, Dragon's Dogma was $122, and I'm willing to pay $130, $140, maybe even $150 to not have fast travel microtransactions in my game. And I guess there's been a bit of discourse as well. A lot of people have been defending this type of microtransaction. Not a lot of people. I've seen a couple of people specifically defending the microtransactions within the game, saying that it was in the first one, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't make it right just because it's happened before. And I guess my concern is, especially when you look to Ubisoft be looking at this and rubbing their hands together. They're like, hang on a minute. You mean we can charge for every tower? We can charge for, every fast travel point. That's something that I don't want to see in gaming, and I would rather see a price hike over the top of that. Umbra, you're probably going to disagree with this because I know how dead against price rises you are, and I don't know if he's there, but
I am here.
He is here. I'm interested to see where we go from here because look, let's make it like a clear fast track lane, right? There's lanes that we have to be in with this conversation initially. We can branch out a bit later, but let's say the choice is this type of microtransaction, and I'm not talking about cosmetics, but this specific type of microtransaction, fast travel, weapons, lighter packs, all that sort of stuff, or we get a price rise, which one is preferable?
Well, as I alluded to on the tweet that you put out, yeah, for me, man, I'm never going to promote an increase of prices, especially when I know these companies are ultimately greedy at the end of the day. And I'm going to tell you why we know that's the truth. And not to say that any form of microtransaction is greed. Well, I guess it's all capitalism. But the whole point of it is, for me, is that there are plenty. First off, I'll just say this as a foreword. There are plenty of games out there that don't worry about microtransactions whatsoever, and they sell like hotcakes. Now, obviously, some of them have to be lightning in a bottle. Some of them have to be well-known IP. You look at Hogwarts. Hogwarts had no microtransactions like that to that degree in the game, where you have to buy things to, like, I'll have to buy a broom so I can fast travel over here. They didn't have things like that. Actually, I think the fact that you can even buy these crystals to allow you to fast travel in Dragon's Dogma 2 is just silly. I don't think I've ever heard of any such thing in any other game, actually. I even asked the cast earlier on Boom's podcast, had they heard of that? Like, chat, do you all know of any game that's ever allowed for the microtransaction purchase of something that allows you to fast travel in a game? I can't think of one. So things like that is where it becomes problematic. I think worthwhile microtransactions are cool, but when you start putting in things like, I don't know, stuff that allows you to do facial changes and things like that for your characters, like it becomes stupid. Now, to be fair, a lot of these things it's overblown, this whole discussion, right? Because a lot of the stuff you can earn in game, and I don't think it's a crazy grind. The problem, though, is for me, is that it opens that door. As Jazz put it perfectly on a tweet that summed it up really quick. It's a slippery slope. And once you start allowing for that, where, oh, well, we'll charge you for, I don't know, microtransactions to change the color of your character. Well, then what else can we get them for? People can say what they want. I don't trust these corporations, because once they have something, a little hook they can grab you with, they're going to do it and charge you more continuously. And Capcom, being honest, despite their great resurgence and turnaround these past years, they have been getting away with that for a while. Somebody in the chat actually brought up Devil May Cry 5 and those red crystals you can buy. And they were like, well, people didn't complain about that. Yeah, because at the time, we knew we can earn those well enough in the game where it wasn't that big of an issue, for one. Two, the game was so good, I think most people kind of ignored it. And I don't think it was that egregious of microtransactions. It was just like, oh, you can buy these red crystals. It wasn't like, oh, buy a Dante's coat change or some stupid stuff, right? So there is that. But look at Capcom's history on microtransactions, and a lot of them become problematic. This right here is one of them in that run of that. So while Capcom has done a lot of great things, I'm not trying to tear them down. I love Capcom. But that right there becomes a problem right there in itself. Our brother Clute on Twitter, he made a great point. He was talking about how when you start having that be the thing, right, where how do I word this? He said, well, we had this discussion in 2020, and he said, hey, I'm fine with $70 if they remove microtransactions. And we'll still get $70 games with microtransactions. And then next up is $100 games with microtransactions. They're not going to just take that away. If they can get money and squeeze more money from us, they're going to do it. So I'm not going to make it easy for them by like, yeah, okay, charge me more. I'm just never going to do it. I already told you guys I have a hard cap at $70 for games, and I'm already squeezing my nephew paws on that right there to have him give half in on that. You see what I mean? So that's the thing for me. So imagine it going up to 80, and they still pull that, because while some might have, let's say they go up to 80, well, some might just charge you that, and that's just a game. Can you expect that for games like, or at least publishers like Rockstar or Take-Two in this case, to do that? No. Can you expect Sony, who was the persons or the people at least who actually pushed $70 more than anybody and actually made it a standard? No. And that's the problem for me, because then it becomes a point where they start squeezing us as consumers more, and I don't really like that practice. I don't like the idea of that. That's why it's bothersome. It becomes a standard now that they can use to charge us more. And that's really the thing. Again, Dragon's Dogma 2 is not that egregious when you really look at it. It's just some of the things that they're using it for is stupid and problematic, right? That's the thing. And of course, the fact that it's a slippery slope. You start allowing for the most minuscule of things to be charged for, they're going to do it more, especially if people buy into it. And I think, and I'll say this, and to close, Dragon's Dogma 2 had crazy hype for it going in before launch. We all know it. It scored well. People were extremely excited for it. I don't think that Capcom needs to sully themselves and their brand by saying, here's some crazy microtransactions to ruin the goodwill that they had building up before that. Whereas the game would likely sell, and still likely is going to sell, extremely well despite that. You know what I mean? Just make a great game, and they will come, as they say. That's all. That's what I think. Just make a great game. Anything else, you know what I mean? If it's going to be a microtransactions, give me something worthwhile. I'm a cosmetics thought when it comes to games. Anybody that plays with me knows this, because I'll be sitting there styling and profiling. They be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm changing my cape." And Helldivers too. Give me a second. I'm going to make sure I look right before I kill these bugs that deliver democracy. You know how I am. Anybody that's played with me know how I am. You know what I mean? So it's just things like that. Give me a worthwhile reason to buy those microtransactions and keep it optional. And I think it's fine. And to be fair to Dragon's Dogma, it is optional. I just think it's a matter of the things that they're giving the options to buy.
I think so Pete in the chat said it's there for lazy people. It's not how the game's meant to be played. If it's not how the game's meant to be played, then don't put it in the game.
It wouldn't be there. Yeah, it wouldn't be there. And the guy, by the way, the director talked about, we won't allow fast travel. We want people to explore, blah, blah, blah. Oh, here's the launch. Here's pay for these crystals to fast travel. It defeats your whole message beforehand. Now, I'm sure that wasn't him that decided that, but it's still the thing. And lazy or not, there are tons of people who will pay for convenience. And once those people pay for those conveniences, they're going to continue to make these microtransactions more ridiculous. Also, I'll throw this out there. I said this before earlier, too. We don't know what practices they pull behind the scenes when it comes to how they met out awards or things you will get in game. How do we not know that they're not going to make it grindy going forward to get some of these things that you can pay for and get quicker? We don't know. There's plenty of games that's done it. We don't know that. So I'm not going to give them the leeway to say, yeah, go ahead and do this. And then they start making it where you have to grind for 20 hours, a la, Gran Turismo 7 or something to get something versus buying something immediately with the microtransactions. I just think it's a slippery slope that becomes problematic. And I think too many people write it off because, I like the game and I can make my Arisen. Like, yeah, cool. You like the game. That does not mean you have to defend its crappy practices.
Agreed. I mean, see, I'm not all up in arms, and I'm not all outraged. Like someone was, saying that it was false outrage. I think last night on Boom's show, right? And I was like, I'm not outraged by this. I'm just pointing. I think as a lot of people, there's people that are outraged, but as a lot of people are just pointing to this saying, hey, this is probably not cool. It's not just that they have these types of microtransactions. It's that it's how they launch them into the game. I think that makes a bit of a difference as well. So, yeah, I mean, I know that Gruder Intruder had a fair bit to say behind the scenes and couldn't be with us this week, where he won't buy the game because of that sort of thing. And there's people out there like that, and that's cool. I mean, I've bought the game, I'll play the game. I won't buy into the microtransactions because I'll speak with my wallet, but I don't think there's anything wrong with calling it out. And I don't think there's a lot of people out there defending it. I think there is something wrong, and I can't tell you what to do, but there is something wrong with defending microtransactions in a game in any way. You should never do Never do that. That should never be a thing. Like, I couldn't believe that last night. I couldn't believe the amount of defense these microtransactions were getting, and I'm like, is this what happened? Like, we went from armor for $4 in Elder Scrolls, I think it was, and people like losing their mind about that, to 2024. Now we're paying for fast travel stones, and people are defending it. Like, what happened in the last decade that I fucking missed? Because I don't know, it's weird. Blue, where are you at with this? You played a little bit of it. I actually haven't played it. Like, I've downloaded it, and that's where I'm at with it. And I've just been sort of watching the discourse online. What do you think? You think this is a little bit egregious, the way they dropped it in there, the types of microtransactions that there is? How you feeling about it?
Yeah, so I've only played a couple hours. I haven't really gotten far enough to feel the pain about fast travel, not fast travel, all of that stuff. But as a principle,
Right.
I have zero problems with cosmetic microtransactions because I clearly spend a lot of money in Call of Duty all year round. None of those require any of those bundles to win a match, play better, any of that stuff. It's just fun. And I play that game a lot. So to me, it doesn't bother me if I'm dropping, $10 for some COD coins or something to buy. But when I look at anything that is related to a game mechanic, I I start to have an issue with it, just because there's a line, right, where we understand microtransactions are part of the game industry now. That's where a lot of people are going, and it's I don't want to say like it's absolutely fine. I mean, it's a reality. Now, how you accept that reality is a little um, different, because a game like this is meant to be traversed, and the fast travel experience, as you would normally get it in most games, is meant to be limited. That's how the first game was, and that's the intent of this game. What I don't like is them saying, well, it's the intent, but if you want to pay to play it a different way, you can, because what you're doing now is paying to play the game in a different manner. It's a different experience. Do I care? Like, enough for me to not buy the game and play it? No. I bought it. I'm playing it. I'm sure I'm going to find it absolutely amazing. All of these microtransactions that have been talked about are technically not going to stop you from playing the entire game. And you can earn some of these currencies in this game to use. But what I don't like is that some of these currencies are rare to get. And like a simple thing like changing your character's hair color should not be a big deal. But in this game, it is locked purely behind the fact that you can get these tokens, or whatever they're called, right, to be able to change your character's appearance. But if you did the character creator, you load in and you're like, man, I hate this. I can't stare at this person for too long. And then you want to go change it. And then you're like, no, I have to pay money because I don't have a token to change it. And I just don't like that. I feel like a mechanic in a game should never be locked behind a paywall, even though you can get it yourself in any other way. But like I said, some of them are extremely limited. So what you've actually done is changed the entire mechanism of the way a game can be played. And that's where it starts to become more of an issue for me.
Right, yeah. So Games Heroes, I'd be interested to like. So is hair color is or isn't locked behind a thing? Like change of characters?
Well, the character creation stuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
the change the look of your character is locked behind an in-game currency.
Okay.
So you can get that in-game currency
Mhm.
and do it yourself. But if you don't have enough, then you can buy it.
Right. Oh,
And the biggest issue here is that it is a single player game. That is the problem. When you lock game mechanics behind a single player experience, it's especially egregious. It's bad when it's a multiplayer game too, but it's especially egregious when you're paying 70, 80, 90 bucks with tax in US for the game to begin with.
So that's
But if you want me to buy some kick-ass tunic with some old ridden boots and all of that stuff, like, you know what I mean? Put it in the store. Let's go.
And I'll can I add this too? Like gamers heroes. Is that Games Heroes that we know of? Risk, is that him?
No. It's Gamers Heroes is a
I just wanted to make sure.
That's a news site.
Okay,
they do reviews and guides.
I was gonna say it's not Games Heroes, is it? Okay. I was gonna say, you know how he is, but I know he's typically games trailers. Don't ask me why he calls himself. Anyway, and this is the thing today. You said changing your physical body, you can do it twice in game for in-game currency or buy it. Why is there even a limit? See, things like that artificially limiting it is why they do it purposely, to make you possible for those who might be aesthetic leading to go say, hey, I'll buy that. And the pricing for these microtransactions are not even that crazy, right? They're like, what, $1.99? I think the highest is like $5 and something. So yeah, they'll nickel and dime you to death. And sure, it doesn't seem that bad for somebody like yourself or others who don't probably care to change up themselves past once or twice, right? That you can earn in game. Or for people like Pete, who doesn't care to look like, Bruce. But my thing is, or Riskit, who cares to look like a hobo. But my point of it is that.
Whoa.
So,
hey,
listen, you all don't know it, but every character Riskit makes in a game looks like they come straight off the street asking you for $5. And for Pete, his characters always look like they're about to join the Pride Parade. So my whole point of it is, regardless of that, neither here nor there. But my thing is that even adding that thing where, hey, you have to do this and earn this in game, you don't know if they're going to make that grindy. You don't know if that's added into it or not. You don't know that. And just trusting it off, well, hey, they did this in part 1 and I don't care. The way we play games now to advance, you heard that? The way we play games now, I feel like we have to advance past certain things and to keep having this defense where we have to, well, it's okay. Again, I think it comes from a place of, I like the game, so therefore it's not a problem to me. If it's a game you don't care for, let's say this was Ubisoft pulling this, as our brother K. Asante correctly pointed out, and they were charging crazy little MTX in the same pricing for Assassin's Creed, we'd be complaining about it. The reason you all aren't is because you like the game. It's really that simple. And I think because of that, that's where you all have to pull yourselves back. Again, it's not that they're that egregious as far as, oh man, the pricing is really insane or it's too much of them, but we don't know what they do behind the scenes. We don't know how they're going to make the game grindy or not to collect these things in the future. It's a slippery slope that can get worse going forward. That's the problem I have with it. It's the same thing I have the problem with the pricing of games, which is why I don't support $70 games, because they're going to keep increasing on us and we're going to get less value at the end of the day. We're going to get the same value we got at 60. You see what I mean? That's the problem. And I think you all are not really looking forward thinking when it comes to that, and like, well, it's okay. Bruce loves everybody. Yeah. So that's my thing. It's like, listen, I get that. I get that it might not be an issue for some now. I 100% understand it. I'm not faulting anybody if they want to buy these microtransactions. Again, I am a cosmetic thought. I will buy them and people could use that against me. So I understand it. I'm just simply saying you don't have to go out of your way to defend it either. That's the only thing. And be like, well, it's fine. Well, not for everybody, it's not. You know what I mean? So it's okay to have this conversation, I think. But enjoy the game. I just think that it kind of sullies what, and I mean, of course, they're having the issues on PC too, and with this too, and Gamers Heroes did mention and make a good point, which I agree with, is that had the PC not have as many issues as it has, people probably wouldn't even be talking about these microtransactions, and I agree. But that coupled with that, you know what I mean, on top of the goodwill they had, I think is why it feels so wrong. You know what I mean?
That's another thing that's sort of an issue with this game, I would have to say, is the performance. I was just watching the Digital Foundry video this morning, coupled with the microtransactions. And people are referencing, before I jump onto the performance, people are referencing Helldivers, saying that it's a similar thing. Really isn't a similar thing. Before I hit level 20 in Helldivers, I was able to purchase the battle pass or whatever it is, their version of the battle pass, and then get access to all that stuff. So you can buy that stuff and you can buy stuff in the store, absolutely, but there's nothing in that store that's going to really, that you can't earn quickly. See, I don't know if this is grindy or it's not like super grindy, or depends on how long it takes, and I guess in reference to the or whoever was saying it before, lazy and you're talking about convenience and the fast travel things. Well, I'm at the moment extremely time poor. I don't have time to sometimes sit and run across an entire map to get to somewhere where I'm going, and I'm going to want to fast travel it, right? And so I think people are saying that you can fast travel in a cart, and I get that, and that's all cool. But if that takes, if it's a 2 to 3 minute cart fast travel, that's purposefully annoying you so that you buy the microtransactions. It's not like it's a load screen. We're past that point where these fast travel sequences or these travel sequences are there to cover up loading. That's not the case anymore. So this is specifically just to piss you off so that you buy a microtransaction. That's just squeezing your customer, and I don't know if I like that. I would always rather pay more. Actually, Blue, we didn't get whether you would rather pay more, because I'm going to end this poll in the chat and then I'll read out the results. But would you rather pay more for a game and have it free of this type of microtransaction, or are you just happy with the microtransaction? Where would you, if you had to choose one, which are you choosing?
Well, I still don't think single player should have microtransactions at all. It should be one price and done. Having said that, if I had to pick one, it would be microtransactions over, as long as they're not game mechanics, over a higher price.
Right. So you're picking microtransactions over. This poll doesn't want to end for me. You're picking microtransactions over the cost of the game. I don't know. That seems kind of. I know a lot of people will too.
Depends on what they are. Depends on what type. It depends on what type they are. That's the hard thing too.
Are you talking
about game stuff where you need it, or are you just talking about cosmetics and optional extras?
Well, we're talking this type of microtransaction specifically, but to me, a one-time payment is always going to trump
what they are.
Having to continually pay for fast travels, right? So, yeah, I don't know. What did we get in the? Sorry, I was just fiddling around in the background with my tech stuff, so that's why I was sort of stumbling over that and stalling. Price hike, yes, we got 27%. Microtransactions for fast travel is a no, and we got 72%. So 72% of people would rather pay for microtransactions than pay extra for the game. And this is exactly why you're going to get microtransactions in your games, because you would prefer that. Survey says
this is where I have to give pushback. And shout out to Serve, all love, brother. But this is where I think you guys are wrong-headed. They're not adding microtransactions because they're coming up short on what they're earning. They're adding microtransactions because they can double dip and get us on both ends. Our brother Everborn Saga says it perfectly. Charge them more, and some of you are all too willing to hand over your wallet, like George Jetson at the beginning of that episode of his show. I feel like, I'm sure some of you, it went over some of you head, Riskit, I'm sure it went over yours. But my thing is this: it's not an either or situation, and I think that's what you all have kind of simplified it to. No, they can charge us a flat rate of 70 and still earn everything they need to earn and go make all their budget back. We've seen it countless times before. I just mentioned Hogwarts. Now, of course,
We've
it's tied to
seen
an
it fail
extremely
too.
popular IP.
We've seen it fail.
Yeah, but you see it succeed more often than not. Dragon's Dogma has its own fan base behind it. It had crazy hype. There's no way if this game launched properly with no issues on PC that this game wouldn't sell well. I just don't believe that. I really don't believe it. And I think it's gained more fans than anything. You know what I mean? Okay. But that's my thing. I don't think it's an either or, and you all are kind of making an either or. They're going to charge you regardless of that. If they take it to 80, if they take it to 100, they're still going to add in microtransactions. It's not because, oh, well, if we charge you 80, we won't put them in until they do. It's always that until they add them.
I agree with that, but that isn't what Riskit asked. Like, the fact is microtransactions are here to stay, period. It's, the question was one or the other, right? But I do agree, like, voting to have a higher price doesn't mean the microtransactions go away in
Yes, it
the
does.
real world.
No,
but that's my point. That's what I was saying. His
I don't live in the real world.
Will we have the $70 games, or would you have them go to 80 so they can take out microtransactions for those types of games? They're going to add the microtransactions even if they take the price up. It's going to happen.
Right.
And it's not, so they're not doing this and not putting them in there because, well, we'll charge you a bit more on the other end, on the front end. And so then we won't have to give you that. As a matter of fact, it's kind of a not even a three card. What do they call that? It's a
three-pronged approach.
It's a little trick. Well, yeah. Yeah. It's a little trick anyway to trick you of your mind. Like, it's a mind game when you really think about it. Well, hey, we won't charge you microtransactions if we charge you just 10 or 20 more than we were charging you before for the full game. Do you see how bad that sounds when you really look at it that way? So, hey, instead of 70, we'll charge you 100 and you'll get all the things that we would normally include in a game anyway. Isn't that a W? It's
absolutely
not.
I'm paying it. What?
See, well, you as our brother John Wolf would say, you are a pay pig. And I get it. Some of us are. And again, I'm a pay pig when it comes to cosmetics. I like my people to look good. You know what I mean, Holly? Huh? Holly?
I know. I've spent many, many hours standing and waiting for you to fix your Division 2 person. Can we please go on the mission? No. Look at my fit. I don't care.
Listen,
I don't care.
if I'm going to liberate Washington, D.C., I need to look right, okay? This is where our forefathers were at. I need to look good. You feel me, Risk?
Not at all. I'm a hobo. No, I hate waiting for people. So I'm like, come on, man. Take your damn photo and let's get moving. I don't disagree with you at all. Like, I 100%. Yes, if they bring it to 80, they're going to keep in microtransactions. But I guess my thinking is, right, it's the type of microtransactions that matter. So when it's a game affecting or mechanically or a mechanic in the game that you have to pay for. I mean, like we heard, I think it was Fuzzy Belvedere said last night on Boom Show, and I remember this vividly, and I was like, no, fuck that. I can't remember the name of him, but he was the CEO of EA, and he was talking about putting in microtransactions for ammo to reload your gun in Battlefield. And I was like, what the fuck? Where are we at now?
Wow.
Like, where are we at when that's happening? Yeah. That was crazy. There was massive amount of pushback. And then, that guy is literally, I'm swearing this week because everyone already hates me anyway. So that guy literally fucked every company he touched. But like, I think the pushback is warranted. The like losing your mind about it is not warranted, but the conversation has to be, we have to have it. And these guys that are I mean, Gamers Heroes and, some other guys in the community that just keep saying, oh, it was this and it was that and excuse. I don't think you should be making excuses for a corporation to give you a microtransaction for a mechanic in the game. I think we should all be letting them know loud and clear that, hey, we don't appreciate this. We don't like this. This is not something that should be happening in our video games. And what I'm saying when I say, price rise or no microtransactions, I'm really saying no microtransactions of this type. And I think we've all said it the same, is like, I'm cool with cosmetics. I'm not cool with fast travel. And I don't give a shit if you can fast travel another way in the game and it takes longer and all. I don't want you charging me for a mechanic in my game. Like, that's part of your game. Like, if it's a mechanic in the game, I don't want to be paying extra for that. So if I have to pay extra at the outset, like if it's $80 or, in my money, that'd be $150. If it's $150 AU, then fuck it. I'll pay the $150 so that if that's what it has to be, then that's what it has to be. And I completely agree with your point to, like, they're being greedy. It's not like they're not making their money back for the most part. And I did raise the thing of there is some companies that aren't making their money back. And I guess you could argue that, hey, make a good game and you will. But if we get to a point where we start just accepting this bullshit in games, then the industry's, it won't be long before you're running down a track heading to kill the dragon, an NPC jumps out of the bushes with a Pepsi and was like, choice of a new generation or some shit. Like, that's where we're going to end up if we don't push back on this stuff. And I guess it's a broader conversation, right? Because they're greedy. They need growth. That's just a symptom of capitalism. Like, companies need to grow. They got shareholders. They got to make money, right? And they got to make more and more money every single year. And we know that the console industry is not growing, and PC is growing, and gaming is having slight growth, but not these big AAA games. Mobile is. So where does AAA end up if they don't put in microtransactions and squeeze the customer base they already have? If they don't raise the price of games, again, squeezing the customer base they already have, like, what's the solution? Where do we go? If anyone, because I think long and hard about this stuff, and people call me a fanboy for laying in bed, like, thinking about, like, where could the industry go to make more money off of these games. And the only thing that I can sort of come up with is, if you don't do microtransactions and you don't raise the price of games, you've got to lower the cost of development. And how do you lower the cost of development? It's a fucking rabbit hole that you could spend hours going down. You could talk about AI. You could talk about, taking development offshore. So removing it from Western devs and, sending it to other places where you don't have to pay people as much. There's lots of things they can do.
Outsourcing our jobs. They took our jobs.
Exactly that. Like, I can't think of a preferable option.
You could sell a performance mode DLC pack onto your game where it comes at 30 FPS.
Can you imagine?
60, it's another $20.
Oh, listen, that sounds like a future that some people might go into. I can see them
Microsoft,
doing
if you're listening,
that.
Do not do that. God, because I'll
That's
pay
the instant death. That game is dead on arrival if that happens.
If it's good, I'll
DOA. Pay. Hell no.
I'll pay pay pig. I'll pay pig that 60 FPS. I'm down.
Okay.
Well, that's the other problem with this game, right? Like, you launched a game with this kind of microtransactions, and I think you're right. Like, I launched a game with this kind of microtransactions. You've unlocked the frame rate, which I had a thought about, and I'll come back to. And I think there's a reason they've unlocked the frame rate, and on both consoles. Pause. But you've unlocked the frame rate, but it's fucking terrible, right? And unless you have a VR screen, which I don't where I am now, at home I do, then you are dealing with a shoddily performing game. So if you have VRR, you probably haven't noticed it as much. It's been, pretty well performing, and it probably sits at around 40 FPS for you or 35 FPS. Still not acceptable in this generation where we were promised 60 frames per second. That you can't take that back. It was a promise. This is what they promised us these consoles would do, and they're simply not doing it. So when you launch a game like this, you charge full price for it, and then you lump in microtransactions, and it performs like shit. Why are we... and it's a great game from all accounts, Everyone's telling me that this is a great game. I've got it, and I'm sure I'm going to find out. But from all accounts, great game. But like, we have to have this conversation. Like, and you may like the game, and it's okay to love the game, but they're not separate things. Microtransaction, performance, all that shit. Like, we cannot continue to allow. I sound like I'm on my soapbox. We cannot continue to allow these publishers to just get away scot-free with this sort of shit, because we have. And I guess us talking maybe doesn't do a lot, and a lot of people say, yeah, you talk it up, but this is what we come here to do. We come here to do a podcast and talk about what's going on. So that's what we're going to do. But a lot of people will tell you, hey, speak with your wallet. And I guess at the end of the day, we're all guilty of not speaking with our wallets, because I can guarantee every single one of us has bought this game. So I guess, yeah, it's an interesting cyclical conversation. I just talked myself in a goddamn circle.
It is an interesting thing. And listen, again, I don't fault anybody for, listen, what you're going to do with your wallet is your wallet. The problem becomes now that it affects my wallet. And when you affect my wallet, now we have a problem. And that really just, I'm being funny, but that's what it comes down to. Sure, some people I'm like, I don't care about microtransactions. I won't buy them in a single player game, but there are millions, and if not hundreds of thousands, who will, which is still going to affect you at the end of the day. So I hear you, but the fact that they are there and we don't give any pushback, it's only going to get worse. There is no company in this world, no corporation in this world that they start doing better by you when you stay quiet while they charge you more. It just doesn't happen. That's not how capitalism works. If they can bleed you dry, they will bleed you dry. That's just it. Our brother Abdel asked a question in Blue. You're probably better equipped to answer this than anybody else here. He said, just devil's advocate here. There's also a positive side to microtransactions. Call of Duty maps used to be paid. Now, because of skins, they're all free. Now, I would say the reason that they're probably free, Abdel, bro, is probably because they realize giving people free maps so they continuously keep that ecosystem moving with people playing together is probably why they're free. And they just added microtransactions to skins and things like that to copy Fortnite's model, because they see how well they can do if you put in worthwhile skins. Because again, I think I'm not the only one that at the end of the day is vain and want our cosmetics and our characters to look good. You see what I mean?
That is a good answer, Blue. Sorry.
But I was that was my thought, but I do want to get your thought on it, Blue.
Well, I wasn't big in the Call of Duty scene beyond the campaigns.
Oops, sorry.
Up until like 3 years ago. So Riskit actually probably would be a better person to ask, because I know you played a lot of Call of Duty before, multiplayer.
What was the question?
Right?
Sorry, I was in the background killing myself laughing. That was funny.
The reason that Call of Duty maps used to be paid and now they're free is because they have a cosmetic store.
No. The reason
was
they
kind of the thought process.
No, I can't remember what iteration it was, but there was pushback on the on that because it was splitting the community. It also sort of used to happen with Battlefield as well. So what used to happen is when they do the DLC and they'd launch that into the game, you'd split your community immediately, and then you'd see an immediate drop in player base because you've got Bob is your mate. He hasn't got the map pack. You've got the map pack, so you've enabled the map pack. You guys are playing together. It dips into, you're hosting the game. It dips into a map he doesn't have, and it just boots him. So people got sick and tired of that. So they sort of removed it as a thing, and they just add the free maps, and then started charging for cosmetics and all that sort of stuff. They did initially charge for there was points at which they were selling guns. So this is a lot of the pushback from there. So I guess when you say this, the whole people complaining about things doesn't make a difference. It does. It changes things. I don't think we're ever going to remove microtransactions, but if we can slow them down with the discourse, then I'm fucking all for it. Umbra, you were going to say?
No, I was just going to reiterate the question, which was to Abdel, really, is that do we, because he was saying that devil's advocate wise, he was saying that the reason why there's an upside to microtransactions possibly in Call of Duty, for instance, where they don't charge for maps that they give us because of the skins that they sell. You know what I mean? So my point of combating that thought was that they didn't really give us the maps for free to make us feel like, oh, see, we're rewarding you. It was more, and they might frame it that way, and it might feel that way, but I believe it was more so that added because they want to keep that player base satisfied and playing amongst each other. And I can say that for a fact because Halo, for instance, did that where they were charging back years ago. I think it was Halo 4 or 5, where you had to pay for the maps. And it didn't go well with the population because most people didn't buy, or not most, a lot of people didn't buy the map packs. So that divided the community. And I think that's what they would want to avoid at Activision for Call of Duty. That was my thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's absolutely exactly what happened. And again, like in Battlefield. So yeah, if remember when they did that Xbox Museum, and I was really surprised to go back and have a look. Is apparently I'm more of a COD player than I was a Battlefield player, but I was Battlefield for like a decade. And it's the same thing. You just split your player base, and then you'd lose players because they didn't want to pay for the map pack, and then they'd stop playing the game and move on to the next thing. So you know, and in a world where you're competing for everyone's time, it's not a smart move to alienate half of your player base or a percentage of your player base, and then you'll just lose them. So yeah, that's exactly what happened. Bang on. But again, like we're saying, like we'll move on to the next topic, but which is a bit more of a positive topic. I wanted to do some positive stuff because someone told me that I'm extremely negative lately, and I don't want to upset them. Fuck.
What you? You're super positive.
So
positively full of bleep. No, I'm joking.
But yeah, look, we got to talk about this stuff. I think people should talk about this stuff. And it's just how you do it again. It's so far as me, I'm always trying to be respectful to developers, respectful to people on Twitter, respectful to the media where I can be, but when something's wrong, got to call it out, right? And that's fair enough. And I think people should be able to have their conversations. Before we move on to the next topic, please hit the like button if you haven't already. Share us out. Subscribe if you're new here. We seem to have lost a few subscribers in the last month. I think that's happening for a lot of different people. There's something going on with the algorithm, so I've been told. But subscribe if you're new. We go live at 8 p.m. EST every Friday. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the power of Game Pass. Just as a positive and just a quick cover, because there's some pretty amazing games dropping into Game Pass this month. You've got The Quarry, which was one that I missed last year, and it sort of was sitting in my backlog to go back and play. Evil West is another one that, again, sitting in my backlog, and I had always planned to go back and buy those two games and check them out. And they've come to Game Pass, which is crazy. Hot Wheels Unleashed, and I don't know if anyone's got a chance to play the first one, you guys, but that game is absolutely crazy good. Like, I had a lot of fun in that. And I think this is only going to boost, obviously, being a multiplayer game, their player numbers. It should be fun. And then, of course, Diablo 4, which I've already got. I guess I'm kind of sick of. I didn't go back and check it out in the update, but I mean, maybe I should jump in and check it out. But at the moment, there's too much to play. I'm also playing Control Ultimate Edition, which I have started 3 times but never finished. So I'm trying to get through that. Dragon's Dogma just dropped. There's so much to play at the moment. So I guess my conversation around what I was thinking around this is, and again, someone did say to me that I've been pretty negative about Xbox, and I can understand people seeing that perspective. And I guess that comes from me wanting the brand to do well, wanting the best for the brand, wanting them to compete, and that's all I want for Xbox. Like, and it breaks my fucking heart when they do something that I disagree with, and I think is detrimental to the brand. However, they are doing some really positive things that I wanted to highlight, and what they're doing with Game Pass this month is definitely something I wanted to highlight. Now, we haven't really had any first-party games in the first quarter as of yet. We've got Hellblade 2 coming up in May, I think May 21st. But this is a good lineup. When they do things like this, I think it should bring the conversation back to look at what Game Pass is doing for us, as gamers. This is fantastic. unfortunately, I think there's been so much negativity, and I think the PS5 Pro specs sort of may have bumped the conversation onto PS5 this and then onto other things, which we'll discuss after this. But guys, anything in Game Pass that you're going to be jumping on, I'll be definitely getting on the Quarry, that's for sure. And I'll probably have a bang in Hot Wheels if you guys are keen to jump in.
I'll go
Probably do
first.
what?
I have. Sounded like you said he'd be banging the Hot Wheels, but that's that Australian talk. It threw us off, I think. Are you going to bang the Hot Wheels track?
I am going to bang the Hot Wheels.
And he likes them fast. But yeah, man, I'm actually going to try out Evil West. And what is that other one? Oh, it was another one added today. Oh, the other day. What was that?
Quarry.
Evil West. The Quarry, that's right. I asked somebody and they turned me down to play with me, but I'll be playing both of those. And yeah, those two I'll be playing for sure.
What is the Quarry though? Because I remember when it came out and everyone was playing it, sort of a story. You don't actually control your character, or is it like a storybook game, or what's the premise of that?
No,
because I didn't really
wouldn't
get
call it a storybook type game, but it is kind of I almost want to say choose your adventure style game. You know how the books,
Right, yeah.
the choose your adventure style books?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of in that vein. And it's in the vein of a Telltale style thing, I think you can kind of say, but in a horror
Right.
aspect, where you can make these decisions that do have real ramifications. And that game has a lot where people can die or live based off your choices. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a playthrough of it on Twitter, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was okay. And if it's in Game Pass, hey, why not? Right? Get a little, nice to pick up a few achievements and stuff like that. Enjoy it. So I'm all for it. But what was the other one? Oh,
Hot Wheels.
Evil West. Now I know our brother Gray was playing, and I talked to him the other day about it, and he enjoyed it. I think it's 2-player, right? So somebody can jump in with the brother. Let me know. You know what I mean? We can go tame the Wild West. Let me know what's up. So,
I played a
yeah.
little bit of it. It's really 360-ish. Like with the jank, you'd sort of accept it back in the 360 days. But I don't know, man. It feels stiff, for want of a better word, right?
I see.
Yeah, it looks nice, and I don't know, man. I don't know if it has any sort of longevity for me. Like, I'm a little bit weird with my games insofar as like Control. I played that game great game, right? Really good game. Love that game, but for some reason I just could not get into it. This time seems to be a little bit different. I think Remedy games are often like that, where people either love them or they hate them. Very much like Blue with Alan Wake 2. She wasn't a massive fan, but sort of toughed it out. But I think that's sort of a thing with Remedy games. But I think Evil West is really, really similar. I think you're either going to jump in, you're going to love it, or you're just not going to like it, depending on, which way you sit at the time and what there is to play, right? Because it depends on what you got in your backlog. Blue, any of these games appealing to you? That rhymed, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are you interrupting me for?
That was
Mr.
That was real passive aggressive. Feels like
I've been talking the whole time. What do you want now?
Listen, I'm on fire tonight. You know what I mean? You can't contain this. You know what I mean?
All right. Lightyear Frontier, I thought looked interesting. At first, when I watched the trailer for it, I was like, and then by the end, I was like, oh, okay, like I would try that. MLB isn't necessarily my jam, but I know it's supposed to be really good. The Quarry, I don't really have much interest in, but Evil West is where it's at for me because this is by Rafael Colantonio, which is the original creator of Arcane Studios, and Arcane is my favorite developer. So he spun off and started Wolf Eye, which is the studio behind Evil West. So I think his
Did you mispronounce his name? I think it was
his art style.
I think you have to say Caladanio. Sorry.
No,
shut
he's
up.
French. It's not Italian. He's French. It's not.
My bad.
Yeah, it's different. So anyway, I vibe with his kind of out of the box thinking and kind of that unique perspective that he has. So I am really excited to play that one for the most part. That's my big one. I didn't know it was 2-player.
That's your what one?
So that's cool. Or co-op. I didn't know it was co-op. Didn't you just say it was co-op, or Umbra just said it was co-op?
Umbra said it was co-op, but it is. Yeah, he's right. Absolutely.
I'm always right.
Yes, I did.
Holly.
So even better, because I can turn him down because I don't want to play with him. No.
Y'all hear this? Y'all hear this energy?
Slander.
Just because I talked about microtransactions. That's how I get done. You hear this?
Oh damn! I missed the super chat.
Okay,
We'll jump into that.
I don't want to play with Riskit either if there's friendly fire.
Oh, there is friendly fire.
You're right.
If there's not friendly fire, I'll just sit there hitting you and for like follow you around, annoying you. Alvin with
fine.
Alvin with the $5 super chat. He says, "When it comes to buying games, I'm a one-issue voter. Is it fun? I have no time for moralizing on the picket line when I'm relaxing after work. Love the show. Absolutely, Alvin, and that's the way to be, man. I reckon it's really Aussie. I reckon that's a good way to be. Absolutely fantastic way to be. If you don't have time for it, it doesn't worry you, it doesn't get to you, that's cool. But if you're the kind of person that you sort of like to delve into the sort of background of games and where you think the industry is going, then I think that's okay as well. I think you can do both. So yeah, thanks for the super chat. Lotus Spree with the $50 super chat says, Transformer emoji. Doing a backflip. So thank you, Lotus Spree. You're an absolute champion. Really appreciate you. PS5 Pro specs.
You know what something I have been thinking about. I have it triggered on my show where I forgot the name of this thing I use, but it'll trigger it'll be like, oh my God, when somebody gives 50 or more. I'm going to start calling that the Lotus Esprit tier, and I'm going to put like a lotus flower that pops up when somebody donates 50 or more on my podcast. That's what I'm going to start doing.
Yeah, I don't really have
Lotus
a thing.
has been so generous.
Someone take the
It
soundboard.
very rarely happens. So if it pops up, it's a shout out to Lotus for all the kindness that they've put out into the community
Displayed.
lately.
You know, Alex goes on camera and takes his shirt off for $50.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Listen.
Yeah, I mean, he can.
Flower on the...
Yeah, Alex is a little more buff than me at the moment, but...
Maybe
let me stop. Let me stop myself. I'm stopping.
Maybe we could do a thing where I start the show with my shirt off, and then they pay the $50 to have me put it back on.
Right.
What do you think?
Put your shirt back on.
You add a layer. By the time the show is over, you've got 3 parkas on and 4 hats.
Right. Hey, that's why he's defending microtransactions. Now I get it. He want microtransactions to put his clothes back on.
Yeah, save that money so you can dress me. We're going to move on to the next topic. Before we do move on to the next topic, please hit the like button, share us out. We go live every Friday at 8, 7. I don't know what time. God damn it. Around 8 or 7 p.m. EST. If you're in Australia, it's
8 EST now. 8 o'clock EST in America. Yeah.
You guys just keep changing the time. I don't know what's going on over there. It's strange. What is this savings of the daylight? Completely lost my way. I'm having a real ADD day today. PS5 Pro specs. I guess my conversation around. So we're looking at the Pro specs. So a lot of people watch the digital. I love Colt. Colt's amazing. And so a lot of people sort of had these different takes on the Digital Foundry thing. Now I watched it twice. Okay. I'm not going to say I understood all of it. What I am going to say is it's not everything that they said was caveated with, but we don't know what they're doing with the architecture. So there is a boost in memory, which I think is important as a 10% uplift in the memory. is important to note, and 10% is not a small number when you're dealing with RAM. And excuse me, very unprofessional. It's very Asmund Gold of me. I think it's important to note that look, I think this machine will easily be able to hit 60 where we're not getting 60 out of games right now. And the other thing that I was going to mention earlier on, and I said pause with it's Dragon's Dogma, is that game is unlocked, and I don't think that's a mistake. I think that was a design choice that was made, knowing their launch date and knowing what's coming down the line. Now, we haven't heard like a direct announcement from PlayStation yet. And we haven't heard anything in a response from Xbox, and I wouldn't expect to hear anything as a response from Xbox until you get an announcement. Now, I will try to keep my takes on this short because later on tomorrow, for me tonight, and for you guys tomorrow, I'll be on Kay Asante's show there in the chat, and I'll be discussing this with the Black Viking because his take is Xbox doesn't need to respond. It has all of these features. It has everything that he needs, and it's the place that he prefers to play. And for him, there's no response needed. And I understand that because for me, I'm going to be there anyway. And the Black Viking, he's going to be there anyway. I'm not talking about him, though. I'm talking about if you want to continue to try to grow your console, then you respond. If you don't want to continue to compete in the console space, then you do not respond. And that's as simple as it gets for me. And I think it's going to be telling when we look down the line, when we get to, PlayStation announcing the Pro specs and then looking a month or two down the track what Xbox does. I think it's going to be very telling where their headspace is at for console gamers. And a lot of people will say, if you want performance, get a PC. And to them, I say, no, I don't want to. To them, I say, I don't want a PC. I'm not interested in a PC. I'm tired of people telling me to get a PC. God damn it. I am happy with console, but I want my console to do some very specific things. And what I would like to see Xbox respond with, and I think that they can do this with their handheld. In fact, I know they can. I think that they can get games to 60 consistently. And I think that they can upscale those games, say, from 1080p to 4K or from 1440p to 4K. If you're giving me a consistent upscaled 60 experience, I'm happy with that console and I will pay for it. Whatever the hell it is. That's what you promised me this generation. A lot of people are also kicking back with we haven't seen what this console can do. And me and Kay are probably going to have this conversation tomorrow. But we haven't seen what this console could do. No. And we're very unlikely to see what it can do until maybe the last couple of games of this generation. The time for that has passed. They had their chance with Forza. We didn't see them show the power of the console. Now, I know a lot of you guys in the chat are going to be K's like, get a PC, stop complaining about limitations. Are going to be like, I'm bagging on Xbox again. I'm not. We haven't seen the promise of power from PlayStation, and we haven't seen the promise of power from Xbox, which is just a fact. It's the unfortunate fact of this generation. But I think we can get there with the next generation, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready for a refresh. I'm ready for the next generation. I'll happily pay for it. I just am tired of seeing my games dropping at 30 or 40 unlocked. So that's sort of my take on it. I won't go too much more into it because, we're going to save a little bit for Kay. Going to save a little bit for, I don't want to give away all my talking points. Black Vikings listening right now. It's probably going to be writing some stuff down. I don't want to go in unprepared. Blue, what do you think? You think Xbox needs to respond? They could do this with games too. They could respond with first party games and actually absolutely use the power of the Xbox and then prove me wrong. But I don't see that happening. What do you think Xbox needs to do?
Well, frankly, I think Xbox, its weak point in the past has been games, and it's only now starting to crawl out of that hole. I think they need to keep focusing on that. Also, if the rumors are indeed true, they're talking about the next gen for Xbox being in 2026. So, as far as I'm concerned, if there was any thought of a mid-gen refresh, which I don't think there should be, then it would have had to been out late last year, early this year to even make sense. But I just don't. This console has not performed quite the way we all thought it would, and that's for a variety of reasons. But it's not anything I'm concerned about. I don't like the idea of mid-gen refreshes on the whole. I would rather them just shorten the life cycle or give them the time that they are supposed to have and let it cook and be ready for the next console, kind of like Nintendo's doing with this long overdue Switch 2. But the mid-gen refresh thing, I'm not a fan of. Just shorten the whole generation cycle at that point. You don't agree?
Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. Might be
When I
right
hear
for
crickets, I'm like, oh,
you. May not be right for some. I feel like we got to start
Mhm.
singing or something like that. But what you think when it gets
They need
quiet?
to, yeah,
Different strokes. It
yeah,
takes.
they really look. 2023 needs to be sorry, 2024 needs to be
Mm.
the year of getting that game cadence in place and trying to introduce a new console into all of that just seems a little foolhardy. The games drive it more than the console hardware does. For
The
the
games, the
casuals,
games, the
that's my
games, the
opinion.
games. I keep hearing this though. It's like, but if you're doing a mid-gen refresh, which is why PlayStation has kept a lot of their specs similar, right? So they can back compat because they've got a serious problem with back compat, whereas Microsoft doesn't have that issue.
Yep.
They made
Correct.
some changes in the coming into this this series, but I think these changes are what's going to carry forward. So I don't think you're going to see a massive effect on GDK and developers. I think you should be able to scale
Well,
a refresh, right?
I don't.
What's the sigh?
Well, I just don't. I don't think the market is going to stay like this is all stuff that you're thinking about with the way that the console industry has always gone. And we're moving away from that. We all know we're moving away from that, right? Look at like gaming started on PCs, consoles blew up, and now where is it all going? It's all going back to PC. Like everybody is going back to PC on both sides. So it like the console diehards
Right?
are getting smaller and smaller. And
Yeah.
the new generations, we know, younger generations want to play on iPads. They want to play on their phone. They want to play on a PC. They don't really want a console unless it's a handheld. So, like, this theory of having this mega console is going to be niche, or it's going to be a PC that you sit under your TV. So, the idea of a mid-gen refresh and all of that stuff, it just seems to be less and less of a, to me, it seems like less and less of a brilliant idea and more of a pain in the butt for them. And we know Xbox is trying to push eventually toward the cloud-based system, which is years and years away, but we know that that's in their arsenal as well.
It's in their arsenal.
Lotus, no PC pad, pro good. I know, Lotus. I think there will always be, well, for the foreseeable future, there will always be consoles. I'm not saying that consoles are going away, but I'm just saying the push for the console market, I think it's capped and
Well,
declining.
I just want to point out as well, like I am one of the last true, and I call myself purist Xbox guys. Like Blue, you've got a PC. Umbra, you're talking PC. Everyone that's a big creator in this space, they all have their PCs. So for them, an upgrade to a console is sort of a waste of money, right? Like it's something that they look at as and you're always going to look at it from a personal perspective, right? So for me, I look at it from a personal perspective as if I can get my 60 FPS. I can have my cake and I can eat it too. If they release a console, they can do it. And I just unfortunately have to wait. I'm at the behest of Microsoft. I have to wait for them to decide to release that new console. And then the other thing is you're in the middle of hardware development. Blue, you were sitting at the table with Jason. He's been developing the next console since before they released this console. So they would be at a stage by now where they could just pull what they have, right? And go, okay, this is what we got. Okay. We've got this handheld. This is the way that they could respond, right? So if we're talking handhelds. Okay, so here's a way they could mid-gen refresh, and a lot of people reference going back to the Series S, like, hey, Series S will get left behind. Yes, as it should. K, have you flip out in the chat. Series S should get left behind. It's time to leave it behind as far as I'm concerned. It's struggling to keep up with the generation. A lot of the talking points that we've heard have come to fruition and been proved. Or don't leave it behind, drop your parity clause. I was a big proponent of not dropping the parity clause and not shifting that line. Maybe it's time to do that. You release your handheld. Your handheld's dockable, right? And then it's got the specs of, say, roughly what the PS5 Pro is, maybe a little bit more memory. Then you're locking games at 60 on a handheld that's dockable. You've already changed the conversation. Your response is a winner. Like, your response does not have to be, here's our traditional console. Your response could be, here is this thing that we've been working on, the handheld, for the interim, and here comes the new console at 2026. But I do think they need to let us know what they got coming. I'll jump to you, Umbra, 2 seconds. BT Maverick 707 with the $5 super chat says, PlayStation upscaler PSSR, dubbed AK the pisser upscaler by Pixelbit G. Need to keep this going. Yeah, it does have a pisser.
Shout out to Pixel.
And that is a pisser.
I saw that on like several chats and different podcasts. They were like, the pisser. I'm like, what's the pisser? And that's what it is, the PSSR. Now I know.
But that's the thing. Like,
that's funny.
That's their architecture. That's their PSSR upscaler. That's their answer to FSR and NVIDIA's upscaling technology. NVIDIA runs off the hardware, and they don't know. Digital Foundry wasn't sure whether this is a software solution or a hardware solution. They believe it's a software solution, but that's not to say it isn't a hardware solution. They could be using that AI ML to upscale. That could be part of the architecture within the box. And if that's the case, and the architecture all works well together, the tools, you could end up with this box being able to achieve, an upscaled 460 easily every single time. And if you've got third-party games launching on PlayStation, it's a Pro, and, Digital Foundry is doing their videos. Hey, this is stuck at 30. This is stuck at 30. But the Pro is locking this at 60 easily. This is not a good conversation for Xbox to be, in. Like, they need to respond, whether it be with games, whether it be with a handheld, whether it be with a console, whether it be with another faux pas. Just keep yourself in the conversation. Umbra, do you think they need to respond?
All right, now I need you to frame this for me again, question-wise, because I was busy mourning the loss of, Coitus in Helldivers 2 because we all failed our mission. So please frame that for me again, my brother.
So the PS5 is locking games at 60, right? Let's say that's what's happening. Then
no, that's not happening, yeah.
What does Xbox need to do? I think it will. I don't think they're launching a PS5 Pro without this thing at least delivering on lock 60s for all your third parties. If it's upscaled, I don't see that happening. So Xbox, in my view, needs to respond to stay in the conversation. They're in third place. Then they lose the power narrative. Then, they're in videos at Digital Foundry where the PS5 Pro is locking 60. It's not a good place to be for Xbox. What does Xbox need to do? If that
it's not a good place at all. It's a few things to this. Kay, I mentioned earlier, he said that getting a Pro or the higher end version of that console is useless if you already have the other standard one still, right? But if you have, the thing is, even with the PS5 Pro, as you know, Risk, it is for that niche group of gamers who want the best of the best when it comes to console specs. So it's not really a thing that I think Microsoft needs to worry about because the casual market is not really going to buy that, I think, on Xbox as they would on PlayStation. That's part of the issue with Microsoft doing it. I don't think it'll really matter for them. And I hate to say it like that, but they are behind in console sales for a reason. I don't think getting a Pro model is going to be like suddenly, we're back on top, right? So that's part of the issue, that they don't have the attachment rate that the PlayStation or Nintendo has. That's one. Two, I agree, losing that power narrative, and it's something we've debated here before. Hell, we've actually even debated the whole parity clause thing and who was on the other side of that before.
That's what I said. That I said that.
That's
I did say that I was on the side of not shifting the line. But I think you were selfishly on the side of shifting the line because my argument there was like, you were like, I just want the game.
Dude, I had to frame it like that. Y'all heard how you framed it? You're going to selfishly on it. Do you hear this, Blue?
I'm for all gamers, you know me.
No, but you're right. I mean, ultimately, it would be selfish. But I'm sorry to say it like this, and I hope folks don't really take it the wrong way. Gaming is selfish. Gaming is selfish inherently. I want what's best for me. You all are going to want what's best for you. That's just what it is. Now, there are some things, of course, like there are some games, for instance, or whatever that happens that benefits the platform that I want everybody to enjoy. Don't get me wrong. I want everybody on Xbox to get every game, for instance, right? Even if I don't care for that game. But gaming is essentially a selfish thing. So yeah, I erred on the side of, well, you're going to have to drop that parity clause because I don't want to have to be affected by me having a higher end console and I can't get that game or whatever because the lower end console can't handle it or something like that. Now, I don't know if that's been proven necessarily, but so that's just really speculation. So I don't want anybody to be like, well, the Series S is not holding anything back. Who told you that? Ponies? I'm just saying I don't want that to end up being the case. But then again, that goes back to why I'm moving on to getting a more powerful PC. See, because now my thought process has changed and evolved to, well, if I want the best specs and I want at least the best performances, guaranteed at least 90-something% of the time, right? And I don't even know if it's that much, but PC has its issues too. And as much as I hate to be like, oh, I got to get a PC, it is what it is if that's what I want to get. You know what I mean? And the same thing is going to apply for those with the Pro console. If you want to get that higher end performance, then that might just have to be the way you go, especially yourself, Risk, who is, the tried and true console last holder on, if you will. But I don't know if Microsoft will respond. They've already said they wouldn't. I just don't see the upside for them doing so.
But so they already.
The rumor is that
he also said, Phil Spencer's words also were, we want to have the power narrative going forward. Right? So
agreed.
He said that
was
too.
One of the things I argued before. Yep, that was one of my arguments that, well, I think they will because he said the power. That was one of my arguments, literally. But now I see how things have changed, and that's the thing. Like with ever changing politics and policies when it comes to these platforms, we don't know how things will shake. And now we see that it's come to the point where Microsoft has stepped in over Phil and team and has forced some changes, I believe. So I don't think the priority for them is to have that higher end current gen platform to outperform PlayStation anymore. I think they've shifted from that. So what I think is that the rumored next Xbox in 2026 is what we'll get. Maybe they'll surprise us and it's 2025. Who knows, right? But I think that's what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to. I think they'll just give us another iteration, the next iteration, if you will, of the console, not a Pro. I think that's what it's going to end up being. And they'll have the power narrative then because it'll be the next gen. And those games will perform at 60, right? That's the way I see it now. So I don't know. I just don't think Xbox will do it. And I don't think they have the audience, unfortunately, of PlayStation to support it as much as our Hoover brothers will for PlayStation. I'm sorry to say it, but
I push back on that too because, I mean, when you're comparing in that market, I get that, right? So that sort of makes sense. But take away the comparison, I don't think 30, 40 million consoles is anything to sneeze at. Even if you're in third place, you make them back, right? So what if you produce? What's the cost? So here's the thing: what's the cost versus your uptick? And I think if you produce, say, 10 million of these high end consoles, and that's we're making 10 million of these, get them while they're hot. I think if you make it a premium choice, that's a limited edition, or a limited sell thingy. I'm going to call it a thingy very technically. Very Asmongold of me, I'm professional, but whatever. But like, if you make it something like that, where it's going to perform on the high end and it's limited, and you have to be one of those special ones to get in on it. There's a million ways to sort of pitch this, right? And if you sell it with a small amount of profit, where's the loss there? I don't see the loss. It just means you have to sell every unit. If you don't produce a lot of units, then you're not losing anything, and you still have the power narrative, right?
Well, let's argue that, right? Or at least debate it. I don't want to say argue. That sounds aggressive, but let's debate that. I agree with you that if their point is to say we want to make sure we don't lose that power narrative, even though they're in third, and to your point about 50 million console sales, if that's where they're at or whatever they're at, that's absolutely nothing to sneeze at. And even saying, oh, well, they're in third place or last place doesn't really matter for these corporations, these mega corporations, because they're making billions. You know what I mean? So it's a silly argument even when we hear that. Well, they're in last place. It's us idiots saying that. And our Hoove brothers saying that, when it ultimately does not matter. Microsoft is making more money than we'll ever see in 10 lifetimes, right? Even just on the Xbox side of things. Going past that, though, does it matter at least now to Microsoft as much to have that power narrative versus how they used to look at things when Phil Spencer said that? I just don't think it is. But I agree that if they had a limited run of, let's say, 20,000 Series XXs, right? The Pro version of it, maybe they would sell all out. It's possible. I can't say that wouldn't happen. I would get it. Me being the power hungry paid pig I am, I probably would get it. Even though I'm getting a higher end PC, I'll likely get the next Xbox, even though I'm going to get the higher end PC, right? But that's me. I don't know how well that would be for everybody, or at least enough to warrant them putting their R&D together to do such a thing. I just don't know. I think they would rather put that toward what makes sense, and that's going next gen. And that's what the current messaging has been, just that no, we're not making a Pro version, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that's not to say they won't change, but I don't think they've had anything. We talk about the negativity that's been around the community lately and the energy that's been sapped. I don't think they have the people behind them with the energy to say, hey, we want to support this thing. I think the energy has dwindled a bit. I don't know if that would help or not. Just speculating, but I just don't know if they have the backing to do that. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's as good of an upside for them if they make those limited runs versus what it costs to make them. I don't know. I really don't. We need somebody smarter than me. Kay Asante, can you jump in for a second, brother? Maybe you can enlighten us. No, I'm just joking.
I can't fight him twice.
Intelligent than me.
I can't fight him twice in one day.
I don't know.
I already got enough. I got enough energy to fight him once in one day. That's it. But that's a marketing beat, a way to bring back the conversation. Like, I would get behind that. You would see me turn positive very, very, very quickly. Again, a lot of people have been saying I've been negative online. I think I'm just telling it like it is. People don't like that's fine. But if you were to release a console that has the power to do what I'm asking for, or what I expect out of my games, or what I expect this generation, at the very least, it was a limited run console. And let's say in America, it's $750 for that console. In Australia, you're talking around about $1,200 to $1,500. I would be straight out at the store getting my limited edition like that. I think a lot of people would. You got to look at if you look at how many hardcores you've got in the industry, I don't think anyone would be able to resist that. Here's a limited edition. We're charging you extra, and here's the power, right? But you've also, again, I assume, I haven't been able to watch the chat, but I assume Kay would be, his argument would be, well, then you've got another SKU you've got to develop for. But if you keep that SKU within the Series X sort of architecture and framework, then it's not really developing for another console. It's just giving you options to scale up, right? Easier to scale up than it is to scale down. So you're developing for the Series S at all times, and then you're scaling up, right? Is my understanding. Interesting thought, interesting conversation. Blue, what do you think? Do you think if they did a limited run high-powered console, well, I know you'd buy it. I mean, you bought the PSVR 2 and it had no games, so I mean, I guess games isn't the thing, right? I don't know.
That's your low-hanging fruit that you're always going to pick at, right? Yep. And moving on. What's the actual question? Would I buy a super console? Of course I would.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So your hand was up at the table? Your hand was up at the table, right? Yeah, see, your hand and Dante's hand, my hand was up at the table when Jason Ronald said, you know, if I made a console when it was $1,000 US, would you buy it? My hand was straight up. Now, that could be $2,000 Australian. I would still buy that console. That man makes anything, I'm going to buy it. But so yes is your answer. Do you think it could work? Do you think that's a good strategy? Like, hey, let's produce 1 million of these consoles. Not 20,000. I think 20,000 is a bit of a low number, Umbra, but like say 1 million globally, you know, we're going to produce, 20,000 here and 50,000 there and whatever. And then we're going to release this limited run console that has the power with all these specs. Do you think that could work for Xbox? Bring them back into the conversation. Be at low cost if they're making profit off the console and they sell all the units. That's the way to give them the power narrative, bring it back into the conversation when it comes to, the most powerful console. And they can make a little bit of a tidy profit at the back end. Blue, what do you think at the back end?
I think that the market on that is pretty niche. And while the consoles are usually sold at a loss, I don't think that they're going to sell enough of those to take the hit to sell those at a loss. I think that those would be sold slightly above cost, maybe even at best at cost, because the quantity would be small. So saying that, I don't see that happening unless you are able to integrate some sort of PC store that could be accessible.
Interesting addition to the conversation.
It's viable for them. I think that. I mean, and we know that is a it's a thing. I think that is becoming more and more of a conversation because of rumors that were in the past, but also because so many people are going to PC. Plus these handhelds, like my Rogue Ally, right? You can play Steam, you can play Game Pass, you can play Epic Store, you can play GOG games.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm really glad you brought that up. Let's assume for a minute. So let's remove the power narrative, right? Let's assume that's a thing. We could even kick it over to whatever they release next, be it the handheld, be it a console, whatever. Let's assume that this thing is going to be Windows bootable, or it's going to have Steam accessible, or you're going to somehow be able to do that. I think if you launch and you're running games at a reasonable fidelity with a reasonable frame rate, but you've got access to Steam, I think that blows any other console out of the water. At that point, the conversation turns from, well, yeah, you can have the full-on power over here, but over here, we've got this library and we've got this library. I now have access to 2 libraries. I'm not missing out on a damn thing. And I'm able to play my PlayStation games on my Xbox. That would change the conversation. That would be a way to respond. If they did that with the handheld, if they did that with the new console, they're absolutely killing it. So there's a lot of ways to respond, right? Umbra, do you think that's let's assume it's a possibility. You think that blows PlayStation out of the water? Xbox comes out handheld, Windows bootable, Steam ready. Let's say it boots to Xbox first, and then it's real easy for you to get from store to store. Do you think that blows PlayStation's console, its Pro, out of the water? At that point, they don't need another Pro. They got this handheld that's dockable. You can access Steam.
Now, theoretically, would this handheld be more powerful than the Series X?
I would imagine if they released a new piece of hardware, it'd either be comparable or slightly more powerful. I would imagine. Assuming.
Or maybe docked, it could be as more powerful, possibly, right? Maybe they could do
Right.
that. And
Right, possible.
the handheld would be as comparable to the Series S, let's say. Maybe something like that. Or I'll go crazier. Let's say the X in power in the handheld mode, but docked even more powerful to the next gen version of it, right? I don't know if that would necessarily hurt PlayStation, but here is the thing. We don't know how a lot of these things will go. Something like that where it has all those things you're talking about and being able to access Steam and all that type of stuff, I can absolutely see that taking off and being a W for Microsoft. I don't know how that will play out. I still think the problem is that PlayStation just has more brand recognition, better, or at least more positive brand recognition. So I don't know if that would turn the tides in any significant way, right? That's the thing for me. And I don't think at the end of the day, hardware is what really moves people to say, yeah, I want to get this thing. It's the hardware coupled by marketing, coupled by brand recognition, coupled and supported by at least great games. That's the thing. So if Microsoft, once they start having these games land and they start scoring well and performing well, that will be the determining factor more than anything else. And I hate to kind of sidetrack your question, but I don't know. I think, though, having a handheld, which many do want, and having that accessibility to Steam is absolutely a possible lightning in the bottle situation, right? That we have never had on console. So if we can have that, if they can work out the details behind how that will work, because Blue,
licensing,
with her infinite wisdom, pointed out a great point, and others have said the same, was how does that work? Because essentially Microsoft will be undercutting themselves. So I don't know how that will work, but if they can figure that out, that's lightning in a bottle. I mean, that's a W. It's undeniably a W if you can get Steam on a handheld that also has native Xbox and Game Pass and all those things to it, right? So, and especially if you can dock it and get an even more powerful version akin to a higher end PC, closer. Let me not go too far. Akin to a mid area PC. So, because I can see somebody high end. This idiot doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well,
we're going to be at 5090 by that point, pal. But yeah.
Well, let's call it that as well. The other thing is, I think at this point, I haven't got a ROG Ally. I've sort of seen some of the things that you are asking in a chat, and I've seen like a lot of other people like, how do I do that? What do I do? What drivers do I need? Blah 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 blah. If this is like a console for the a handheld for the console market, that also is very appealing. You know, it does everything it needs to do in the background. It looks after your drivers, all that bullshit in the background, but is bootable to Steam and has that Windows capability. So for those tinkerers, the option's there. And for those who just want a more simple experience, that option's there with access to Steam, right? I think that's a huge selling point. I think that would absolutely move the needle for Xbox. I think it's a way that they could respond, and a way they should.
Yeah, I can see it, man. I mean, listen, we don't know. Like, I can't say this would do it. But I think that will make a lot of waves, right? Like the whole idea of having this, how was this put, Riz? This whole, how do I put this? This whole OS situation where they can be put on any device. That whole thing that was floated about and many people speculated on. Having something like that where you can have this on a device that is a powerful user experience rather, that we can kind of control depending on the device that we buy. That puts a lot of power in our hands, akin to us buying a PC, and having that option of Steam, which is just basically has a monopoly on the PC side of things, I think absolutely is a lightning in a bottle situation that could be a win for Microsoft that pushes people away from the need or dependency on PlayStation. But again, it comes down to the games, man. That's really what it comes down to. Is just, can they land those games, and give people a reason to have to want that platform. That's the way I look at it, because third party, as we all know, typically rules the day on any platform. So having Steam erases that issue with Xbox having games skip it. So that's the W right there. You see what I mean? And also the sales. We'll get a better, it's something I would enjoy, is that we'll have better end experiences as consumers on what they charge us, because we can go to Steam and get a cheaper price. But that's why I don't know. It seems more fantastical than anything, and not reality, because we've just talked about how they do these greedy practices with microtransactions. Are they really going to give us something that good? It sounds too good to be true, right? So I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm. It does sound too good to be true, right? It does sound like a bit of a pipe dream. Be really interesting to see what sort of happens in the next couple of months. Maybe what the announcement is at the June showcase, which I believe is happening. And unfortunately, I'm going to miss. So a bit of a public service announcement. Unfortunately, I am going to miss some things have happened in the background. And I'm going to miss the June showcase, and I'm definitely going to miss GamesCom. I'm probably going to pull out of that trip because I've got some stuff going on in the background, so I'll miss that. But I would love to be there for them to announce that handheld. How cool would it be if they gave it out to everyone? Blue, what if that was your, instead of getting a, hoodie, this, that, and the other, you ended up walking out with a handheld? That'd be good. That'd be very, very good.
That would be beyond good. That would be flipping epic. The Starfield jacket we got last year was way cool. Anyway, but in a handheld, forget about it.
It'd blow that shit out of the water. Absolutely. And that jacket's nothing to sneeze at. I love that jacket. That's got pride of place. It's hanging on the back of my door. It's never been worn, but I sniff it often. What? Weird. Face 23 Brooklyn with a $19.99 $20 super chat. He says, at ThatBlueNumber. I think this is for you, Holly. He said, I'm a PlayStation gamer. I'm getting a Pro. But if Sony put their single player and multiplayer games day and date on PC, then I would switch to a PC. But that's not the case right now. Oh, it sounds like he's taking a shot at you, Holly. Yeah, right. Okay. Can you get at it?
I responded. I said I understand and I agree.
Holly's coming for you.
Me too. But
Face 23 Brooklyn with the 199 super chat. He said most Xbox gamers are going to PC. That's true. And I'm an absolute. I'm not downing anyone who goes and gets a PC, and I completely understand that if you're doing that, I get the reasons why, and that's absolutely fair. And everyone should game how and where they want to game, and I'm down with that. But for me, I'm probably never going to go PC. And if I do, it'll be at a time when consoles, starts to wind down. I'm just always going to be that console purist until the very end. I'll be the last guy, You bury me with my Series X. I'm kidding. Lotus Spree with the $10 super chat. You're an absolute champion. Loving this conversation debate. Really appreciate you. And everyone in the chat, you guys have been absolutely amazing. We had a banging chat this week. It's been a shitload of fun. Some interesting conversations. We didn't have a guest on this week, and I think I'm leaning more towards, guys, and you can tell me in the chat, I think I'm starting to lean more towards maybe not pulling in guests every week. And just, we've got Dante cycling through. We've got Garuda cycling through. I think we have some pretty interesting conversations and debates. I think we should get a guest when it makes sense to get one. But what do you guys think? Live on air, green room conversation. What do you think?
Yeah.
No more guests.
Blue. You want to give your thoughts, Blue? Love and marriage. I'm about to sing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think. You missed it under Umbra singing over me. Too bad.
You were quiet. You didn't say anything. You keep pausing
real shame.
for a long time.
Blue?
Go ahead, though, please.
What? No, I think that, the jerk. The interesting thing is that, when you get too many people, it's hard to have a full-on conversation, right? So, I kind of like the format that we're doing now. Feels like it's got a good rhythm.
Umbra?
I
Someone who doesn't have good
agree.
rhythm?
What? I have the best rhythm. I'm black. It's natural. You all don't seem to agree. You all don't seem to agree with me. Haters. Holly's being the biggest hater right now of my black jeans. No, but seriously,
You wear black
I have
jeans?
said this before. Yeah, I do. I wear black jeans to cover my black jeans. But my thing about that is, you heard me speak on this before, behind the scenes. Look at this rapping I'm doing. I'm rhyming. You see how it just flows out effortlessly, Blue? Do you see that? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
Uh-huh.
No, but seriously, I've said this before, Risk. As you know, I feel like, first off, I hate to keep pestering people. And though these gentlemen and our fellow content creators, whom we all love and adore, are great, and we do want to get their perspectives on things. I especially always look to our brother Kay to be like, hey, Kay, you want to come through? But I know Kay is like, he got things to do. And it's only so much knowledge and time he can spare out before he gets himself in trouble. He has a life, so I get it. And to our other brothers too, and sisters in this thing. We do want to bring you by, of course, but it's just a thing where it comes like, hey, it doesn't become a thing of annoyance, and I don't have time to do that. So sometimes it's just better to go and do our own thing. And me and Danny have done that and experimented in doing just that, where it's just us talking. And I've noticed that we carry conversations just fine, just the two of us. So I don't know. I think it is perfectly fair to have sometimes bring in a bigger name that people might want to hear, a Colt or a Rand, or a Kay Asante, or even bigger names that's out there, Paris, if he ever graces us, things of that nature. But it is absolutely perfectly more home. It feels more at home when it's just us kind of talking on some things. We all get a better chance to kind of give a better breath of a response, I suppose. So I like it. I like that too a lot. Long answer short. Yeah, I like us being just us sometimes.
That was not a short answer. Right?
Yeah, that's why I was adding that last little part. Long answer short. What are you laughing about, huh? What's this? Huh?
I feel like that was quite lengthy. The answer was lengthy. The lengthy answer.
Hey, listen. I'm not going to make the joke I could make, but yeah, I like sometimes when it's just us talking and debating things. It gives us a better chance to express ourselves. Does that make better right there?
That's the shit. I like that. Yeah, that's good. Face 23 with $20 super chat. He says, does it matter if Xbox releases a pro console since they're putting games on PlayStation and everywhere? That's a low blow, man. Low blow. Yeah, look, we'll see what happens, man. If the rumor that some person released about Hellblade,
only 4 games.
It's only 4 games. Yeah, it's nothing else. They haven't got any other ports happening or anything. That's that would be crazy, right? Who would think such a thing? Awkward silence.
Moving on.
Anyway, that's
Gamer Zero said that was like a 20-minute eulogy. It wasn't that bad.
It's pretty bad. So moving on. Look,
we be friends.
Oh, how do I mute? I'm pretty sure I can mute. Oh yeah, I'm gonna press this button. There you go. He's muted. Sorry, guys. I didn't want your ears bleeding.
You see what I have to deal with? This is why sometimes I prefer more guests, because the hate will dissipate a bit when there's more people on the panel and just not me, where I get hate from both directions from the other two members here. So.
I don't want to be rude. Yeah. That's cool. It was a good show. Fantastic show this week. I was a little bit unprepared this week. But I hope it wasn't too terrible for you guys in the chat. So I apologize if you hear me fumbling over the topics occasionally, trying to find links that I've got displaced all over the shop. You guys in the chat have been absolutely amazing this week. It was great.
Before you move on to close, sorry to cut you off. We were asked about Rise of the Ronin by Serve. Did you all want to talk about that briefly? Or is that's too late for us?
Do I want to? I got a lot of hate for look, I put a tweet up and said, thinking back to a time when 83 was a mid game. A lot of people got really upset by that. This is the thing, this whole console war thing, and I guess I've been drifting sort of further and further away from it because the toxicity it brings is just horrific, and there's definitely some mental illness out there. Look, some people may like the game, and that's absolutely fantastic. If I look objectively at Rise of the Ronin, I think it's underbaked. I haven't played it. I have spoken to someone who has. What they said to me was very similar to what SkillUp said in his review, was that it's very samey. So once you get into the open world and you start moving through missions, that's pretty much rinse and repeat. Go to the bandit camp, kill the bandit camp, move on to the next bandit camp, pat a cat on the way there, do this little shrine on the way there, and then rinse and repeat over and over and over again. It's a disappointing release for PlayStation, and I think that it's not a first-party game, and a lot of people call it out as a first-party game. I think that when you look at what PlayStation's done with their second-party games and their lack of roadmap, I really think PlayStation's in a bad place. I think they're in a very bad place. You know, their last two releases being Final Fantasy and Ronin. One apparently great, one pretty middling. If you look at their last three releases, you've had Foam Stars, Final Fantasy, and Rise of the Ronin. I think the PlayStation's just in it. I think they've dug themselves into a hole, not seeing where they were going. And I think if you look at it, we've talked in the last couple of years about we haven't seen the end of Sean Layden's tenure when it comes to games. I think you're sort of looking at Spider-Man 2 for me. I believe that's the end of Sean Layden's tenure there. And since then, we haven't seen a lot of great decision making. I think up until that point with, you know, God of War, Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2, whatever was before that. Who knows? No one played it. They don't buy their own games. But I think PlayStation's in a bad spot at the moment. It's you're starting to see this quality narrative slip as far as I can see. Obviously, the industry hardcores are going to disagree with me. Phase 23 Brooklyn's probably going to disagree with that. But look objectively at what's been going on with PlayStation. We've had a lot of remasters, remakes, and we haven't seen their big studios hit this entire generation. And I wouldn't even call God of War Ragnarok a hit. So yeah, I guess that's my take on that. And it's a concern because you're releasing a new console, if the Pro's true, on the back of absolutely no roadmap. So from that side of things, so from my side for Xbox, if Xbox releases a new console, there's a roadmap for me to look at to go, fuck yeah, I want to play these games at whatever it is, 4K, 60, whatever. But for PlayStation, I'm like, well, there's third parties, so yeah. But what is their first party for me to go and play? So I sort of look at it like that, and I look at Rise of the Ronin as being like another massive miss for them, especially considering their quality bar. Umbra, what do you think about it?
I feel a few things. Just to speak on Rise of the Ronin itself, it's unfortunate because I expect more from Team Ninja. And this right here is just not up to par. And I mean, even if you go past the visuals, which I think look cool in some aspects when you see certain actions, overall, it looks very underwhelming. And we didn't really see that until we saw other less curated visuals and I guess gameplay moments. Like you see them riding on that horse and it looks ridiculous. Have you all seen that? Have you all seen how it looks when you ride a horse from behind?
Mm-hmm.
It looks hilarious. It's like, how did you allow that to be released like that in that state? Then there are issues with performance, and this is more going back to what we were talking about before. Why I feel like I'm just going to go ahead and onto PC when I really want a game that performs the way I want it to, 60 frames locked, et cetera, or more. They've had performance issues. The performance mode in here is supposed to lock it at 60, right? But it's dropped as low as 40 frames per second. And if you turn on ray tracing modes, it can go as low as 20. It's just not worth it at the end of the day. You know what I mean? 900p resolution, stuff like that. It's just not worth it. And I think the visuals and everything else in it doesn't add up enough for that. So that's not specifically a Sony thing, right? That's, it's not on them, although I know they helped fund it in some ways as far as development, I believe. But it's to say that Team Ninja didn't really turn in a good project in some ways here. It is in those 70s. What is it, 76, I think it's standing at now, if not lower. So it's not horrible. It's technically a good game, but I don't think I'll be rushing to buy it anytime soon. So that's my thoughts on that when it comes to that. As far as Sony as a whole, I agree with everything you said there, so I don't want to go on another eulogy spree here. But that's my thoughts on it, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, I think what I said about PlayStation is just an accepted sort of fact, in and around the industry, unless you're a hardcore gamer. Blue, a hardcore PlayStation fan. Blue, are you purchasing Rise of the Ronin? Does it have PSVR 2? Can you play it on PSVR 2?
Ignoring that. It's a really big bummer because I was like actually debating which one of this or Dragon's Dogma 2 I was going to get for this release window. And as everything started coming in and I started to see Fighting Cowboys like initial impressions of the two games, it was very obvious that my purchase of Rise of the Ronin is delayed until there's a sale. Hopefully by then maybe they'll have some patches and stuff like that, but it is definitely on the delayed list for me at this point. It looked great. It looked like a lot of fun. I wasn't feeling like a graphics snob about it, but now with, just some of the other things that I've seen regarding like the lackluster side content and obviously the horse movement, it's lowered. I've had my expectations tempered. So it's a later date purchase for me.
Yeah, for me, a skip.
Riskit, are you gonna get it?
Am I what?
Are you going to get it?
Nope. It's definitely a no for me. I mean, it's a... I'm trying to be nice about this, but I'm not going to be nice. It's a budget version of Ghost of Tsushima, and I've already played Ghost of Tsushima, and it's not going to tide me over for... Yeah. No. And then to release on the same day as Dragon's Dogma 2, like, when will PlayStation learn? Face 23 Brooklyn with the $20 super chat says Xbox One X released with Zoo Tycoon, Super Lucky Tail, and the Series X released with nothing. Come on, Riskit. Well, I mean, I would argue that they're bangers. I really enjoyed Super Lucky's Tale, and Zoo Tycoon is, man, who doesn't want to be a Zoo Tycoon? I mean, realistically, if I could do that as a real job, I like animals. Who doesn't like animals? You saying you don't like animals? No,
you
just
like
kidding,
them because
face.
you all have an abundance of them over there where you're at that might take you somewhere and kill you. But yeah,
They're all
many of us don't like them.
They're all dangerous.
That's okay.
Yeah, look, agreed. Face 23, and again, I think there is that. This is a niche thing for those hardcore players, and so if they want to go back and play their remasters and their remakes on at a higher resolution with 60, and instead of getting an FPS boost type thing, and a 4K update, you have to pay for a new game. That's absolutely fine. I think that's if the hardcore want to support the devs like that. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. I didn't be respectful. My bad. Look, it's been an absolutely fantastic show. I do got to wrap it up because I've got meetings coming out of my left toe. Guys in the chat have been absolutely amazing this week. I really appreciate every single one of you guys turning up, supporting us. I know that there's been sort of a weird algorithm thing going on where a lot of YouTube channels are taking a hit for some reason. Doesn't seem to have affected me. I have lost quite a few subscribers. So apparently people are being unsubscribed by the algorithm. So check to see if you are subscribed. If you're not, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button on the way out. And Umbra, another fantastic week, another fantastic show. Let people know what you'd be up to, what your plans are for the week. And if you want to find any one of the panel members, you can head down in the description, press their links, and it will take you straight to them. Umbra.
Yes, it is a good show. I enjoyed this. As far as what I will be, of course, you guys know you can find me on Twitter. I'm easy to find, easy to connect to, actually. I'm a fast responder. I like that about myself. Not everybody responds quickly. I respond quickly because I value time. And if people, if I sent something to someone else, I would expect them to respond as quickly as they could too. But I say this, you can find me Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite on Twitter X. And of course, Tuesdays on Boom's Xbox Factor podcast. Thursday, my show, The Fix, with Daniel J. McGee as the co-star. How you like co-star, guys? I made a mistake and said co-star instead of co-host one time, but I think it sounds cool. What do you think about that? Co-star.
I sort of think you're big upping yourself and sort of calling yourself a star.
You get it. You picked up on it. You picked up on it. But yeah, I still think it sounds cool. What do you think, Blue?
It's all right.
See it. Y'all see this negativity I can continues to face here.
It's not negative. That was no way was negative.
I need energy. It's just like it's all right. It's all right.
It's maybe a bit much.
I don't know.
Star.
It's a bit much.
That would maybe person.
Chat
co-person.
Family, you all tell me. I don't know. I think Riskit and Blue hating on me, y'all. I don't know. I think co-star sounded good. I don't know. That's right, Serve.
Have you ever heard of victim mentality?
Anyway, sir, I cannot wait to get back into Hell Divers and invite somebody into Extreme or higher.
That's
Serve,
me.
Yadani's waiting for you.
That's me.
Yadani, you with me? Serve, if I'm going to serve up democracy, I need a better cape, Serve. That's right. But just wanted to say, by the way, I had bought the Outlast Trials, by the way. So, I don't know if any of you guys want to. Now you're excited. Now I get the energy. Now the energy pops up. 2024. Now the energy is there. Wow. Y'all hear that? You hear that, Risk? Y'all see the difference. Y'all see the difference now, right? Y'all see it now, right?
I checked out because this is the longest intro I've ever outro I've ever heard.
I had to give the 20-minute outro eulogy to shout out to Gamers Heroes. But no, thank you all in the chat for being here with us. We appreciate you. Without you, there is no us.
It's true.
And thank you for my co-stars and star host Riskit and that blue
I like that
number here. See how I gave you all your shine? See that?
I like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. Blue, let people know where they can find you. We'd be up to try to see if you can. I mean, Umbra cut into a lot of your outro time, so I mean, if there's anyone to blame, you know where to sort of place that blame. But let people know where they can find you, and I fixed Blue's link in the description. So yeah, you can head down there and click on her links. Blue.
Yep. Just ThatBlueNumber everywhere. All the gaming platforms there are, and on Twitter. And yeah, I have some saved music playlists. There's a playlist I have saved actually on YouTube if you want to check it out. It's a really good playlist that Red Wolf and I made together, which is really good to use when you're playing Cyberpunk kind of in the background instead of music in the game.
Yeah.
And Tuesday nights at 5 p.m. Central Time, I'm on the Renegade Realm podcast. So come over and check that out. And also the big push I would like to have for just the second is everybody should look for Ben Kenobi on Twitter. I will put his link in the chat. He is doing giveaways for coins. You might have seen them popping up on Twitter. They are absolutely gorgeous coins. They're for games, and they are not available for sale. They are only available through giveaways on his Twitter account and a few of the podcasts that you might pop into now and then, like Boom and the Iron Lords, and also Seasoned Gaming with Ains, who's wonderful. There's going to be a few more shows being added to that, doing giveaways as well. So just check those out and watch for those giveaways. And he's got pictures of the coins as they go up for giveaways on his Twitter account. So thanks.
Hoping that, Infinite might be in the conversation there. We'll see. And for myself, yeah, man, I'm going to have a pretty busy week. I'm going to try to get through a bit of Dragon's Dogma. I'm playing Control, so I'm trying to knock through that. So I'm trying to get through that this week. I'm also playing Max Payne 3. So I got 3 games on the go at once at the moment and very little time to play them, as well as getting a healthy amount of democracy and freedom, because we don't have that in Australia. That only exists either in Helldivers or America. Guys in the chat have been absolutely fantastic. Guys on the panel, appreciate you guys coming through every week. You guys are amazing. Held down. We will see you all next week. Yeah.
It's over. It's over. But it's far from over. Later, guys.
God, I love that song.